All right, let's dive in. This
Yeah.
time we're cracking the code on how Google Analytics for GA4 and BigQuery can help us find those insights to really transform a business. And you've sent me a bunch of interesting resources, articles, developer docs, even like a whole presentation on how to boost sales using these tools. So I guess we'll use all this to help everyone figure out how to get the most out of GA4 and BigQuery.
Yeah, and it's really fascinating how these resources all point to the same conclusion. GA4 and BigQuery, they're not just tools, they're meant to be used together. When you combine them, you get this incredibly detailed view of your audience and their behavior.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. GA4 is the newest version of Google Analytics, right? And one of the good things is that it can track users across websites and apps. But what really makes it different is this whole event-based model.
Yeah, the event-based model is a total game changer. I mean, think about it. It's not just showing page views anymore. It's recording every interaction, every scroll, every video play, button click, even like in-app purchases. So you can really see the why behind the what.
So it's like a constant stream of data telling you exactly what users are doing, right? But how do we get from that to something we can actually use?
Well, GA4 organizes all this data into dimensions and metrics. Dimensions are like categories, things like the user's device type, their location, the source of their traffic. Then metrics, they're the quantifiable parts, the number of times a video was played, or how long a user spent on a certain page.
Okay, so you can see not just that a video was watched, but like you were saying, what kind of device they used, where they were. Even if they watched the whole thing, it paints a much more complete picture.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the coolest things is GA4 has this huge amount of these dimensions and metrics, many that you can't even see in the regular GA4 interface. You can get really specific, like what kind of files users are downloading or even how far they scroll down a page.
So we've got all this incredibly detailed data being captured by GA4, but how do we actually make sense of it all? That's where BigQuery comes in.
Exactly. BigQuery is Google's cloud-based data warehouse. It can handle these gigantic data sets, terabytes of information, and it can process all that data in seconds. Can you imagine trying to analyze that much data in a spreadsheet? It would take forever.
So it's like the supercomputer that can process it all.
Yeah.
But let's be real, most people aren't data scientists. How easy is it to actually use BigQuery? Do you have to be some kind of coding expert?
Not at all. One of the best things about GA4 is that it connects so smoothly with BigQuery. You don't need to write any complex code or be an expert in data warehousing. You can set up the data export in just a few clicks.
So you're saying someone without a technical background can still use BigQuery to look at their GA4 data?
Definitely. It's all designed to be really user-friendly. It's all about making data analysis something anyone can do.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It's like having your own team of data analysts that you can ask anything. Okay, so I get why it's useful, but how about some examples? What kind of insights can we actually unlock with these two tools?
Well, imagine you're running a mobile game and you want to reduce player churn. BigQuery has this tool called BigQuery ML. It's a machine learning tool built right in, and you can actually use it to create a model that can predict which players are likely to churn based on how they use the app and their engagement patterns.
So you could actually see who's about to leave before they even do,
Yeah.
and then do something to keep them around.
Yeah, exactly. You could use that information to target those players with special offers, rewards, or even personalized messages to try and keep them interested.
That's amazing. It's like a crystal ball.
Yeah.
And this could apply to way more than just churn, right? You can use it for marketing, understanding different groups of users, even finding your most valuable customers.
Exactly. There are so many possibilities. You could even use it to make your marketing budget go further. By analyzing GA4 data in BigQuery, you can figure out which channels are actually bringing in the most customers. Or you could build a model to predict who's most likely to buy something. That way, you know exactly where to focus your efforts for the biggest impact.
So it's all about moving away from just guessing and starting to make decisions based on data, hard evidence.
Exactly. You embrace this data-driven decision-making and use the insights to make smarter choices that make your business even better.
So how would we actually go about doing this? What are the first steps?
Well, you need to make sure GA4 is set up correctly and collecting the right data. That means being thoughtful about what events you're tracking, setting up custom dimensions and metrics that actually line up with your goals, and making sure everything is accurate.
And once you have GA4 up and running, You can connect it to BigQuery and really dig into the data.
Exactly. Then you can start to explore it all, using
Mhm.
SQL queries. It's a really powerful language for finding and analyzing your data. You can build custom dashboards and reports specific to your needs. And of course, you can use that BigQuery ML tool to build those predictive models to get ahead of the game.
It sounds like there's so much to explore here.
Oh, there really is. And the coolest part is, none of it is out of reach. You don't need to be a data scientist or a coding whiz to get started.
Okay, so I want to understand how this all works in the real world. How are businesses actually using GA4 and BigQuery to make a difference?
One of the most common and effective ways is to use it for customer segmentation. By analyzing all that GA4 data in BigQuery, you can actually separate users into different groups based on things like their behavior, demographics, purchase history, whatever is important for your business.
So you don't have to treat everyone the same. You can tailor your messages, your product recommendations, your customer support, all to that specific group.
That's the idea. It's about making sure each customer feels understood and like they matter.
That makes sense. What about marketing attribution? We talked about all those different models. How can BigQuery help us actually understand which marketing efforts are working?
Remember how I said that the regular GA4 interface uses preset attribution models? Well, with BigQuery, you don't have to be limited by those. You can actually make your own custom model that aligns perfectly with your business and how you view the customer journey.
So you can finally see exactly how each step in the process, from the first social media ad to that email follow-up, helped to get that sale.
Exactly. It gives you a much clearer view of how your campaigns are performing and lets you tweak your spending to get the best results.
I'm curious about how this could be used for making products even better. Could we use GA4 and BigQuery to actually build better products?
Oh, absolutely. GA4 is capturing tons of data about how users are interacting with your product. You can take all that to BigQuery and figure out which features people really like, which ones might be confusing, or people are giving up, those sorts of insights.
So we could use that data to figure out what to improve, what new features to work on, and really just make the user experience better.
Yeah, that's it. It's all about using data to guide your product development so you're building something that your customers will love.
I'm really excited about all this, but I have to imagine that actually setting up this level of data analysis takes some real expertise.
Hmm.
What would you say to businesses that are just getting started?
I know it can feel a little overwhelming at first, but don't worry. Google has a bunch of great resources, documentation, training materials, even online communities where you can talk to other users and see what they're doing.
And for businesses that don't have the expertise in-house, there are always consultants and agencies that specialize in this, right?
Exactly. There are people out there ready to help. Don't let a lack of resources hold you back from using these amazing tools.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on something from that business development presentation. They kept mentioning something called DataBackfill. Any idea what that could be?
Oh, that's interesting. You don't usually see the term data backfill when you're talking about GA4 or BigQuery. So it's probably something specific to how they do things. I'm guessing it refers to some sort of strategy where they're adding historical information to their data sets.
So they're not just looking at what's happening now, but trying to understand trends and patterns over time by going back into the past.
That's what it sounds like. That presentation was all about using data to grow your business. And they had all these different methods they talked about, like targeted campaigns, qualifying leads, and conversion optimization.
They were also really focused on specific customer personas, like marketing managers, data analysts, even IT managers. It seems like they're trying to make sure their solutions are really tailored to each person's specific needs and problems.
Yeah, it's definitely a targeted approach. They even have a compensation plan that encourages their sales team to focus on qualified leads and getting the most out of their conversions. They seem pretty serious about this data backfill idea.
But how they're actually doing it is still a bit of a mystery. It could be their secret weapon, something that gives them an advantage.
You know what? You've got me really curious. It sounds like something worth looking into.
Maybe some of our listeners will check it out too. It's a good reminder that there's always something new to discover with data. Speaking of discoveries, let's dive into another interesting topic from the presentation. This whole idea of focusing on those specific customer personas.
Yeah, it's a smart strategy. By understanding what each persona needs and what they struggle with, they can create messages and solutions that really hit home.
Like they mentioned how marketing managers want to see all their campaign analytics, while data analysts are tired of dealing with data manually. It's all about solving their problems.
And it doesn't stop there. They also talked about targeting specific industries because they know that different sectors have different data needs and challenges.
They even talked about using platforms like Reddit and offering free training as a way to connect with potential customers. It's a multifaceted approach, and it all seems to revolve around this concept of data backfill.
And if we think back to what we've been talking about, it suggests they're not just offering data tools, but actual results. They're positioning themselves as partners in growth, helping businesses use data to reach their goals.
Instead of just giving them software, they're saying, let's work together and turn your data into something that gives you a real advantage.
Yes, exactly. And GA4 and BigQuery are perfect for that. By understanding their audience and using those powerful tools, they can show just how valuable their solutions are.
So if we think about everything we've covered today, what's the main takeaway for our listeners? What should they keep in mind as they start to explore GA4 and BigQuery for their own business?
I think the most important thing is to remember this. GA4 and BigQuery, when you use them together, are more than just tools. They're a way to really understand your customers and your business. They give you the power to move past just gut feelings and make decisions based on real evidence.
It's all about moving from reacting to things to getting ahead of them, using data not just to look at the past, but to shape the future.
Yes, it's about unlocking the potential in your data and using it to grow your business in a meaningful way.
That's a great point to end on, I think. Remember, the insights are out there waiting for you. All you have to do is start looking.
Yeah, that's a really important point. The data you see in GA4 comes from the same place, but it's been, well, processed. It's kind of like a pre-made meal, right? It's convenient and gives you a general idea, but you can't really control the ingredients.
So are you saying there's even more information than what's in the GA4 dashboard?
Oh, absolutely. Google Analytics does a lot of stuff behind the scenes to make that data easier to digest. Like it uses sampling, data modeling, and attribution models just to simplify things and show what it thinks are the most useful insights.
Wait, sampling. So does that mean the data in BigQuery is more accurate?
Well, it's not necessarily about being more accurate, it's more about being complete. When you have these massive amounts of data, Google Analytics sometimes just takes a sample of it to make those reports load faster in the interface. It's like looking at a small piece of the pie instead of the whole thing. But with BigQuery, you get the whole pie, all of the raw, unfiltered data.
So if I really need to see the exact numbers, BigQuery is the way to go.
Yeah, exactly. Think about it this way. If you're trying to figure out the exact number of active users or how much a certain marketing campaign really affected things, you need all the data, and BigQuery gives you that.
Okay, starting to get it. You also mentioned attribution models. Can you explain that a little more? How do those affect the data in GA4?
Okay, so attribution models are basically the rules that GA4 uses to decide which interactions in the customer journey get credit for a conversion, like a purchase. For example, the last click model gives all the credit to the final click before someone buys something, but a linear model spreads the credit out evenly across every interaction.
So those numbers you see in GA4 could be off, depending on which attribution model is being used.
Right. But that raw data in BigQuery, it doesn't use any attribution models. You get to choose how you want to assign credit based on your business and how you think about the customer journey.
This is making a lot more sense now. So GA4 is like the executive summary, and BigQuery is the full research report.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I like that. You can pick the level of detail you need.
We've spent a lot of time on the technical stuff, but how does all this actually help businesses?
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, it's all about making better decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Data is useless if it doesn't help you achieve something. You have to start with your goals. What are you actually trying to do? Do you want more sales? Do you want to keep customers coming back? Do you want to boost user engagement?
So once you know exactly what you want to achieve, you can use the data to find the things that are driving those outcomes or holding you back.
Exactly. So let's say you want to increase your sales. You could analyze all that GA4 data in BigQuery and see which marketing channels are bringing in the most conversions. Or you could build a model to predict which users are most likely to make a purchase. Then you can focus all your energy on the things that will have the biggest impact.
So we're talking about getting rid of those gut feelings and hunches and making decisions based on something real.
That's it. It's all about embracing this idea of data-driven decision-making, using your insights to make smarter choices that will lead to better results for your business.
So how do we actually start doing this? Where do we begin?
The first thing you need is to make sure your GA4 is set up properly and capturing the right data. That means you need to be careful about which events you're tracking, you need to set up those custom dimensions and metrics that match your business goals, and of course you want to make sure all that data is accurate and reliable.
And then once you have GA4 running smoothly, you can connect it to BigQuery and really start analyzing that data on a deeper level.
Right. From there, you can start exploring the data using those SQL queries. They're really powerful. You can build custom dashboards, custom reports, and you can use BigQuery ML to build those predictive models that can give you a real edge.
It sounds like there are endless possibilities here.
There are, and the best part is that it's all accessible. You don't need to be a data scientist or a coding expert to make use of these tools.
Okay, so let's get real for a second. How are businesses actually using GA4 and BigQuery to make a difference in their bottom line?
Well, one of the most popular and powerful ways is using them for customer segmentation. You can take that GA4 data, put it in BigQuery, and identify groups of users based on their behavior, demographics, purchase history, whatever matters for your business.
So instead of treating all your customers the same, you can create marketing messages, product recommendations, even customer support interactions that are tailored to each specific group.
Exactly. You give them a personalized experience and make them feel valued.
That makes a lot of sense. What about using this for marketing attribution? We were talking about those different models earlier. How can BigQuery help us understand what marketing efforts are actually working?
So remember how I said that GA4 has those preset attribution models? Well, with BigQuery, you don't have to use those. You can build your own custom model that fits your business and how you see the customer journey.
Oh, wow. So you can actually see how every interaction from the first time someone saw your ad on social media to that follow-up email contributed to a purchase.
That's the idea. You get to see the whole picture of your campaign performance, and then you can adjust your spending accordingly.
This is really interesting stuff. I'm also curious about how this could be used for product development. Could you use GA4 and BigQuery to actually create better products?
For sure. Remember, GA4 is collecting all this data about how people are interacting with your product. Then you can use BigQuery to see which features people are using the most, which ones might be confusing, where people are dropping off, all kinds of useful stuff.
So you could use that data to figure out what to improve, decide on new features, and really just optimize the whole user experience.
Exactly. Use the data to make a roadmap for your product and build something people really want.
This is all really exciting, but I have to imagine that implementing this level of data analysis takes some expertise. What advice would you give to businesses who are just getting started?
I know it can seem a little daunting at first, but there's no need to be intimidated. Google has tons of resources, documentation, training. They even have online communities where you can connect with other people and learn from their experiences.
And if a business doesn't have the expertise in-house, they can always hire consultants or agencies that specialize in GA4 and BigQuery, right?
Exactly. There are tons of people out there to help. Don't let a lack of resources stop you from using these powerful tools.
Before we move on, I want to circle back to something from that business development presentation. They mentioned DataBackfill several times. Do you know what that could be all about?
That's interesting. The term data backfill isn't something you usually hear with GA4 or BigQuery, so it's probably something specific to their approach. Maybe it's a strategy for adding historical data to their existing data sets.
So they're not just looking at what's happening right now, but trying to understand trends over a longer period of time by going back into the past.
That's what it sounds like to me. Their whole presentation was about using data for growth, and they talked about all these different methods like targeted campaigns, qualifying leads, and optimizing conversions.
And they were really focused on specific customer personas, like marketing managers, data analysts, and IT managers. It seemed like they were trying to really tailor their solutions to each persona's specific needs and challenges.
Yeah, it was a very targeted approach. They even have a compensation plan for their sales team that focuses on qualified leads and maximizing conversions. It seems like they're all in on this data backfill thing.
But they didn't really explain how it works, did they? Maybe it's their secret sauce, their special advantage?
Well, you've certainly piqued my curiosity. I'd love to learn more about it.
Maybe our listeners will want to dig into that too. It just goes to show that with data, there's always something new to discover. Speaking of new discoveries, let's switch gears and talk about another interesting topic from the presentation. This focus on those specific customer personas.
It's a really smart approach. When you understand what makes each of these personas tick, what their challenges are, and what they really want, you can tailor your message and your solutions to really connect with them.
Right, like they pointed out how marketing managers are all about those in-depth campaign analytics, and data analysts hate having to deal with manual data processing. It's like they're going right to the source of their pain points.
And it doesn't end there. They're also focusing on specific industries because they know each sector has its own unique data needs and challenges.
They even mentioned using platforms like Reddit and offering free training to reach potential customers. It's a really well-rounded approach. And this data backfill idea seems to be at the heart of it all.
If we connect this back to what we've been talking about, it seems like they're not just providing tools, but actual solutions. They want to be seen as partners in growth, helping businesses use their data to achieve their goals.
Instead of just giving them software, it's more like they're saying, hey, let's work together and turn your data into a competitive advantage.
That's exactly it. And using GA4 and BigQuery is perfect for that. By understanding their target audience and using these powerful tools, they can really prove the value of their solutions.
So looking back at everything we've talked about today, what's the big takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about as they start exploring GA4 and BigQuery for their own businesses?
I think the most important thing to remember is that GA4 and BigQuery, when used together, are more than just data tools. They give you this incredible insight into your customers and your business. They let you move beyond those gut feelings and make decisions based on real, hard evidence.
So it's about making that shift from reacting to things to actually anticipating what's coming and using data to shape the future.
Exactly. It's about finding the potential in your data and using it to help your business grow in a real and lasting way.
I think that's a perfect place to wrap things up. And remember, everyone, those valuable insights are out there just waiting to be discovered. So go out there and start digging.